It is 6 o'clock, and I will call the June 11th, 2024 meeting of the Wythe County Board of Supervisors to order. Before we get started, just to do a little housekeeping. I ask that everybody join me in asking wishing Mr. Cook, who serves as our vice chair, a very happy birthday. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Well, no, he said he was wanting to get out here early, and happy birthday was 3.5 minutes, so he waved all that. This evening, we have Pastor Darren Smith of the Ignite Church in Rural Retreat to provide the invocation. If you would, please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you guys for the invite tonight. And I just want to say that John Maxwell said great leaders ask great questions. And that's what we're here to do tonight right here, is to ask God to be with us. The greatest question you could ask. I'm going to ask you to pray with me. Father, tonight, we thank you so much, God, for your presence already in this place, Lord. Father, for those that have asked and have already prayed, asked you to be here, to meet us here. God, as now, we just ask you to join these men and women, Lord, that make decisions, God, that are here to dream, God, to lead. Father, we ask you for guidance in their hearts today, God. Father, we ask today, Lord, that you be set on top, that everything else is put up under. Father, they ask you right now for guidance, God, as they make decisions. Father, for the future of our county. We love you. We thank you for what you're already doing. We ask you to bless their families. Watch over each one as we give you glory and honor. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the next item on our agenda is a presentation of a sports resolution honoring Olivia Krieger. Olivia, come on up. Wythe County Resolution. Wythe County Resolution 2024-18, a resolution honoring Olivia Krieger and Rural Retreat High School girls outdoor track and field team. Whereas a Rural Retreat High School senior, Olivia Krieger, completed a very successful and distinguished high school outdoor track and field career. And whereas Olivia advanced to the Virginia High School League's Class 1A state championship at James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia, on May 31st and June 1st, 2024. And whereas Olivia captured the 2024 Outdoor Track and Field State Championship title in the triple jump with a length of 36 feet, 4.5 inches, making her a two-time triple jump state champion. And whereas the Wythe County Board of Supervisors officially commends Olivia for her outstanding dedication, athletic ability, and sportsmanship. Now therefore be it resolved that the Wythe County Board of Supervisors presents this resolution to Olivia Krieger in recognition and honor of her 2024 Outdoor Track and Field State Championship title and wishes her much success in her future endeavors at Bridgewater College. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be incorporated in the official minutes of the Wythe County Board of Supervisors adopted this 11th day of June 2024, signed Brian W. Vaught, Chair. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2024-18.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Morgan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, congratulations, Olivia. Now, while they're taking pictures, a personal thank you as a Brewery Tree alumni, and I don't get a chance to do this a whole lot because usually when we have sports resolutions, we have students from Brewery Tree doing the way sports is. But I got to wear my Brewery Tree tie tonight, and the record will show that I think Mr. Smith has actually wore it to more gold board meetings than I have.
And I look better in it.
No argument from here. But not only have you accomplished this, you graduated as an honor graduate at Brewery Tree. And if my memory serves correct, you've done pretty good in the academic awards, scholarships, stuff. So, thank you for making me proud. Class of, I won't put the year, I'll leave that up to Ms. Collins. And if she wants to tell our age, because she was right there with me, so that's up to her. But congratulations, thank you, and best of luck in the future. Thank you. And if I'm not mistaken, if I read your grandmother's Facebook correctly, I believe your mother just celebrated a birthday last week, which is a shame it's not tonight because 2 birthdays state championship, we buy a cake. I mean, we literally missed it by days, so. But thank you and good luck. And y'all are free to leave. Your mama's got this summer off. She's got stuff to do. All right, the next item on our agenda is citizens' time. We don't have any citizens signed up, so I will close citizen time and move on to the one public hearing we have on the agenda. And I will have Mr. Bear read the notification of the public hearing, then I will call you up, and as always in a public hearing, you will have 5 minutes to speak, and Mr. Cook will keep the time. Mr. Bear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Notice of public hearing on proposed issuance of bonds by Wythe County, Virginia. The Board of Supervisors of Wythe County, Virginia will hold a public hearing on the proposed issuance at one time or from time to time of bonds by Wythe County. The estimated maximum amount of the bonds proposed to be issued is $2,900,000 in the aggregate. The proposed use of the bonds is to pay costs for capital improvements to the county's Appalachian Regional Exposition Center and to pay cost of issuing the bonds. The public hearing, which may be continued or adjourned, or at which persons may appear and present their views on the proposed bond issue, will be held at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard on June 11, 2024, before the board in the boardroom of the County Administration Building located at 340 South 6th Street, Wytheville, Virginia, by order of the Wythe County Board of Supervisors.
All right, we have one person signed up to speak for the public hearing, Mr. Mike Forrest.
You will have a hearing or vote at some point on a bond for seating at the Apex Center. The amount of the bond is $2 million, but the interest and the cost to prepare the bond is another $900,000. Mr. Bear has given me some information about the cost of renovations for the hockey field. That amount of money plus this $2,900,000 is $9,356,396. The original cost, according to the numbers Mr. Bear supplied, is $10,550,000. So this renovation plus this bond almost doubles the cost of the Apex Center for the citizens of the county, the taxpayers here. Those two together will be $19,906,693. That's a lot of money, especially when looking at the lease that the hockey team has signed. They will pay in rent $1,740,000 over 2 years, less than the cost of these seats that you're going to consider. I would strongly suggest, rather than having a loan, that there's a line item in the 25 budget, there's surplus, $6.4 million that we paid for that, for the seats, $2 million out of that, and save us $900,000. $900,000 is not an insignificant cost. That's about 5% of the total cost of APEX. $900,000 do a lot of good. Fire departments, rescue squads, sheriff's departments, schools, any of these welcome $900,000, I'm sure. I hope that you reconsider this. Not borrow the money. I'm not in favor of all the money that's been spent, but you're going to spend the $2 million anyway. Let's save us $900,000. That's a lot of money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forrest. That's the only citizen we had signed up to speak during the public hearing, so I'll close the public hearing. Move on to the payment of invoices. Each board, oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, we do have resolutions in the next item on that package following the public hearing. If the board wishes to authorize the issuance and sale of these general obligation bonds. Just one item of correction, just noting the proposed issuance is for $2 million, it's $2.9 million. It is not just $2 million and then $900,000 in issuance costs. It is $2 million for the proposed bleachers and $900,000 for the other improvements that are needed to finalize the items in our lease agreement. So that is what the $2.9 million is for. If the board wishes to proceed with the execution of this bond, we would need to do so tonight in order to close by the 28th. Mr. David Rose from Davenport is here. If there are any questions that the board has or would like for him to answer in the process.
I apologize, Mr. Bear. I scrolled down too far. I missed that resolution.
No problem.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Rose? I know they, Davenport covered it in the budget committee, and he covered the prepayment options and the, going back to kind of what Mr. Forrest touched on, the pluses or minuses, pulling it out of surplus and where we have our investments, or the surplus invested. But does anybody have any questions for Mr. Rose? I understand that not everybody was privy to that presentation, so I'll open the floor for any questions. I'm sure Mr. Rose will.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, again, Dave Rose, pleasure to be here. I'd just like to make some clarifications if I can. I think the gentleman is well-intentioned, but the numbers that he provided you were just not simply correct. So as Mr. Baer indicated, we're not talking about $2,900,000 issuance costs, not even close to a fraction of that. What we are talking about is roughly $2.9 million of improvements. What we did was we went through and competitively sought from banks and brokerages an interest rate that is fixed for up to 20 years. We can pay it off at any time that we want after 5 years. But the rate is fixed. That rate is basically 5.86%. But as I've been in front of you before, if rates get better, we can refinance that. All the other banks that responded were north of 7%. So this bank, Webster Bank, which has done work with us before, I've been in front of you before, has been a great bank to work with. They like the county. And one of the things they like about the county is that we have very strong reserves. I think, unfortunately, what the gentleman did not realize was if we take 2 or 2.9 million of those reserves, right now we're earning north of 5.5% on those reserves, we lose that permanently forever. So the idea here is to be in a position where we can, in effect, leverage our money and do something down the road. I've always said to you, cash is king. That's why we as a county have such a high credit rating. Our credit rating is as good as anybody, if not better, than anybody in the region because we have strong reserves, and it gives us the ability over time to pay down, if we want, some of our debts. We also are very well positioned debt-wise. You may recall, I've been in front of you, we have actually a low debt profile. So this provides us the ability, while you're getting payments in, while things are happening positively over there at the Apex Center, to decide, okay, do we want to pay some of this down the road? But right now, we maintain, hold on to our cash in our, what we call that unassigned fund balance. So I want to make sure it's clear, it's not as if we just avoid some debt and that we don't lose something on the other side, and that is interest earnings on the money that you have. That money that you have, make it clear, is helping you keep your tax rate down because that interest earnings is a very strong line item in your general fund. So again, it's important to see the whole of this. I don't know where the concept was that there's $900,000 of cost of issuance or anything close to that. That's just not even, that number of cost of issuance we estimate is going to be basically under $75,000. So I don't know where we get 900,000, but that's my point. Again, Mr. Chairman, I know I was not on the Finance Committee. I know, I think, Mr. Jerry, you were on.
Yes, sir.
I know you were on, and again, so we'll make sure that we see the big picture as your advisor. I'm not the bank. I don't provide the interest. Rather, I'm here to sort of look at what makes the best sense for the long run, and that's what we think makes sense. We've also been in a mode with you where we've recommended, and we have done, pay some cash for certain projects, and we've done that before. This one doesn't really make sense to us, given the interest rate environments and the interest rate we have the ability to lock in. So that's our view, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Rose. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Rose? All right, with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution as presented and authorize the county administrator to execute the documents with Webster Bank.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any more questions and/or discussion?
I would just like to point out that we're entering into a 15-year agreement. We only have a 10-year lease. That is a big concern of mine right now. I'm not sure, and when you look at the lease money that we get out of it, we're not paying this debt off with that. So it's going to come out of our reserves anyway, eventually.
And the 10-year lease, Mr. Barrett, is it automatic renewable or?
It does have a renewable clause,
Yeah, I
option to
know.
renew for 10
Optional.
years, yes.
I think the gentleman just said that we was just locked in for 5 years, right? Then we could pay it off
Yes.
with no penalties.
Yes.
Is that correct?
We got a 2%, about 2 interest rate percentage, will cost us about $50,000 if it's about year 5.
And then after 8, that goes
Then
away.
it goes to 0 after 8 years.
Yeah.
So the 10-year lease, I think the other point, appreciate Mr. Morgan, you make a very good point. That's why the debt is set up this way. So while we get the interest earnings that right now are in the mid-5s, plus the lease, that's more dollars coming in than if we were to just all of a sudden pay cash for this. That's why we're going to be in a better position from our perspective. I like your point. And again, so after 5 years, we can pay it off. At the same time, 8 years is still within that 10 years, we pay it off with no penalty. That penalty goes to 0. So again, to the extent it doesn't get rolled, or again, along the way, if earnings come down, the other thing I've done with you before is as interest rates, even though they're favorable, but if they get more favorable as they have, I've done this with you several times, we can come back here and not extend any of the debt, but just lower the interest rate. And we've done that before. So I think we've got the position of that flexibility, that's our recommendation, while we have these payments coming from the hockey club. That's what I'm saying. Yep.
All right, does that elicit any more questions or comments?
Well, another thing, when you can't just talk lease, you've got to talk food tax, lodging tax, the tax, the money we get for each ticket sold.
Yeah, I keep hearing that, but nobody can tell me how much it is.
Well,
Unfortunately, on the food tax, I think we're handcuffed by the Code of Virginia, if I'm not correct. Is that?
It's the amount of what our food tax is.
The commissioner legally, by the code, cannot isolate one entity and tell us what the food tax is. In other words, we can't say what's the food tax at Exit 80 McDonald's because the Code of Virginia says that they can't tell us that. I look at the numbers we get every month and see they're increasing. Do I know that's where it's come from? No. All I can rely on is since they start the hockey games, the food tax and the hotel taxes increased. Now, is that because more people are eating out? Nobody up here can tell us. There's only one person in the county that can tell us that, and he's forbade by the Code of Virginia for telling us that. Mr. Farthing, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
That doesn't happen a lot, so I like to get that on the record. I'm like that State Farm commercial. I've learned a few things over the years. And Mr. Morgan, I had the same question when I was on the town council retreat. As such a small community with only a few businesses that collect the food tax, of course, when you take the 24-hour-a-day businesses versus the mom and pop businesses, I was always curious, which one contributed what, and they're like, we can't tell you that. And I'm sure there's a reason why to keep us from going out and buying stock at McDonald's. I would assume, Mr. Farthing, that's why we can't know. But like I said, I've asked the same question. So, all right. Is there any more questions or discussion on that? Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. No.
No.
So approved. Right. Next item on the agenda is the payment of invoices. Each board member has received in their board package a copy of the invoices that need to be approved. With that being said, I'll entertain a motion to approve the invoices.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any questions, discussion, or any invoice any board member wants to pull out? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item on our agenda is the minutes of our previous meeting from May the 28th, 2024. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Terry, a second by
Second.
Mr. Smith. Is there any corrections or additions to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Abstain. Wasn't here.
Oh, all right. Minutes are approved with Mr. Burnett abstaining. We'll move on to old business. Mr. Barry, do you have anything for old business?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we'll move on to new business. We have an extension office update from Andrea Hobner.
I just really quickly wanted to let y'all know about some of the events we have coming up through the extension office. So these are just flyers that we have. The first one is canning workshops in Wythe County. We've got 2 so far scheduled this summer. And then the next educational event that we have coming up is our Balanced Living with Diabetes program. So we've partnered with County Parks and Rec and also the health department here to offer that program. That's free to help those with type 2 diabetes manage that. And that's actually, participants are going to be compensated through the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention if they participate in that program. So it's free, and they're going to get compensated for participating in that. And then we also have a class called Living Well with Chronic Conditions. So this is just another 6-week class that teaches folks how to manage any chronic condition that they have. That one is online or in person. So we'll have 2 opportunities to get into that one. And then Ethan Henderson and I, our agriculture agent, we're offering a well water drinking clinic. So basically get your well water tested for a couple different things. They're listed on there. I won't read them all to you, but we're partnering together to do that. We're one of the only entities in Virginia that tests well water. So very important, and there's an educational event associated with that, as well as will help folks interpret their results from the test. And then I'm going to be very honest with you, I can't answer very many questions about the next one because Ethan, our agriculture agent, is on that side of things, but it's basically a cost share opportunity for livestock producers. So if you have questions about that, I can get you in touch with Ethan. And then lastly, we do have our junior 4-H camp coming up. With County Camps with Carroll County. County's kind of in on that together. And that's during the week of July 22nd through the 26th. So I just wanted to let y'all know about some of the things we have going on in the extension office. And if you have any questions about any of those, let me know. Or any things that you want to partner on, any ideas that you all have, please reach out. We're always happy to partner on those things. So thank y'all so much for your support.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Hubner?
Hobner.
Hobner?
You could just call me.
I was going to mess it up. Does anybody have any questions for Audrey? I will say I appreciate the information. This is like the 7th year that I've sat on this board, and I don't know that we've ever had anybody from Extension come up and share their information of things that they were doing. Mr. Barrett, can we work, I know we don't have a PIO, but can we work on getting this out on social media?
Our substitute PIO will do a great job of getting the information out on social media.
I don't know why I didn't look at Matt to start with, but I'm sure we can try to get the word out. But
Thank you.
thank you. So,
I can get the electronic copies to whoever needs them.
If you want to email them to me or Matt, if you've got his email address. And
Oh, yeah, that's right, yes. Okay. Well, thank y'all again, I appreciate your time.
thank you.
Thank you.
I won't mess your name up next time.
You're fine,
No, I'm lying, I will.
it's okay.
All right, next item on our agenda is everybody's favorite, the adoption of the fiscal year 25 budget and the tax levy. Mr. Baird, do you have anything to add?
No, Mr. Chairman, you have a resolution in front of you that just establishes the budget 118,207,262. And then also establishes the tax rates for calendar year '24 as advertised and as previously discussed, no increases on any of our tax rates.
And I hate that Mr. Rose left before we got to this point, because he was very complimentary on the county and our financial health and what our tax rates currently are, and will probably be here in a couple of minutes, but I know nobody, including myself and the other gentleman sitting up here, like to pay taxes, but at least when we look at the area taxes, there's a little bit of relief that we're the cheapest. With that being said, I'll entertain a motion to, can we do both at one time?
The resolution has both of them in there, so if you'll just adopt this resolution, Mr. Chairman, that.
All right, entertain a motion to adopt the FY '25 budget and tax levy as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I would request that we pull out the Mount Rogers funding before we approve anything budget-wise, please, sir.
Just for clarification, we have multiple Mount Rogers.
It should be 5201.
Mount Rogers Community Services.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mount Rogers Community Services. All right, have a motion to adopt the budget, but pull out Mount Rogers Community Services line item for further discussion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any questions or discussion on that?
Mr. Chairman, for clarification, you are looking at then approving this resolution with the $135,000 deduction, which was the amount from Mount Rogers. Is that the motion that's on the floor?
And we will discuss it at a later date.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
that's how I understood it is.
We'll be discussing that at a later date, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
And the current tax rate.
And the current tax rate.
Yeah.
Yes. So basically, the motion you made was to deduct it $135,000. So the new amount will be $118,072,266.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is everybody on the same page? All right. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry, I'll start with you.
Aye.
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 So approved. Now, with that being said, is there a motion to discuss the Mount Rogers Community Service Board budget and our schedule it to budget committee or send it somewhere?
I guess the question for me, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Byer, when is the deadline to get it all approved? By the end of June?
We would technically need to adopt by the June 28th meeting if we are, any funds that we are going to be budgeting them for next fiscal year.
Budget committee meets.
We, I don't think, Budget Committee is not scheduled to meet before then, but I would like to discuss having a Budget Committee possibly the afternoon of the 25th to go over the year-end closeouts and everything that's come in, the carryovers and all those to talk about. So
Did you say June 25th?
June 25th, Tuesday or potentially Monday, but if Tuesday would work, 4 o'clock or whatever time when we typically have the Budget Committee, if that would work for everyone.
I'm fine, because up till a month ago, I thought we were having a board meeting. I think we moved it to the 28th. I've got a spot in my phone.
That work for you, Mr. Terry?
Yes, sir, I'm good with that.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we discuss the Mount Rogers budget that we withdrew from the resolution on June 25th at our budget committee meeting.
Do we need a time on that, Mr. Barrett?
Does 4 o'clock work for everyone?
4 PM.
That's good with me, sirs.
All right. Have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Terry. Is there any questions or discussion?
That's just the budget committee, not the full board.
Yes, budget committee. Yes, sir.
Unless, well, the only way we could do that is have a, well, it'd have to be a special call.
You can tell me.
Okay, I was,
One
okay.
clarification.
And
You could recess if you want to have a full board work
And,
session.
and I don't, you know, I'm not gonna speak for every board member, and they can chime in to have some discussion, but, I have some concerns about Mount Rogers Community Services that I've brought up in the past, about the services, absolutely about their salary scale for their upper administration. I've said it in public meetings. I've had these concerns for several years. Nothing has changed. So that's where this vote's at. I won't speak for Mr. Terry or Mr. Smith. But it's literally been crickets to every one of this board's concerns.
Yes. I echo those concerns, Mr. Chairman, and also echo a concern that I have huge concerns about the director's ability to be truthful when questioned about certain things.
I mean, that's, Mr. Smith, I'm not gonna put you on the spot, but I just don't want the general public to think it's a blind side. There's been issues, there's ongoing issues, you know, there's been no communication except at budget time.
Yeah, the communication is the issue for me. Mr. Terry talked about some of the, being truthful. There's some of that's been issues for me, and then the delays in getting information to us, incorrect information. So I think we, you know, I don't know how everybody else feels, if we want to just let the budget committee or we want to do a work session. It's up to y'all. I mean, I know I made the motion for the budget committee.
I'm good with whatever.
I mean, unless there's a, excuse me, unless there's a call for, you know, a full board meeting, I think the budget committee can meet with them, and Mr. Bear can send out our recommendation or what our thoughts are after that meeting, and, you know, per our rules of procedure, if there's two board members that want to call a special session, you know.
I'll stand on my original motion.
Does everybody understand that? Yep. Okay. All right. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 So approved. Next item we have is the Southwest Virginia Legal Aid Society and their opioid abatement authority grant. Do we have anybody?
We do not, Mr. Chairman. They have got approved for their grant, and I would recommend you all authorize me to execute this grant. This does not include any local funds.
All right. Entertain a motion to approve the request as presented and authorize Mr. Bear to execute the agreement.
So moved.
Second. Who made the motion? Motion by Mr. Morgan, second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any questions or discussion on that one? That being said, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Aye. So approved.
Mr. Chairman, I would just add, Ms. Helmick is here with us tonight from the Health
Well,
Department, but
But that's the reason I asked, because when she walked in, that's who I knew we had talked before.
Listening today, I don't have to talk to you all.
Because when she walked in, I went up to her and said, Did I forget to put your agreement on the board package tonight? Because I'm like, have we already approved yours or not? But they got awarded funding as well. I don't remember if we've
So-
already voted on it
Yeah,
or
you
not.
had.
We
So,
did.
but
Yeah,
anyway.
I knew I'd recognize the face.
Yeah.
It's Mr. Cook's birthday, but I've got the 68-year-old mind. I mean, he's a lot sharper than I am. So, but, well, thank you for coming. All right, we'll move on to appointments. We did have, we've got one on the JPSA. And I think everybody's aware that Dickie Pack, because of his health issues, had to step down. Dickie had served several years and done a should took a vote on that. They'd have probably appreciated that. Dickie Pack had to step down from the JPSA because of health issues. Dickie served several years and done an excellent job representing Wythe County on the JPSA. We have had, as crazy as it sounds, Gene Horney has expressed interest in serving the remainder of that term. Mr. Horney was on the JPSA for several years when he was on the Board of Supervisors. So if it's the board's pleasure, I'll entertain a motion to appoint Mr. B.G. Horney to the JPSA for the remainder of Mr. Pack's term. Have a motion by Mr. Cook. Do I have a second? Have a second by Mr. Burnett. Is there any questions or discussion on that? Right. Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
Aye.
So approved. We also have a opening coming up on the Recreation Commission, Miss Melanie Jefferson. Do we know if she's interested in?
I do not know, but I would recommend reappointing her, and then we can confirm if she doesn't want that position.
Do we know how often they meet?
They have not met very often, but they now are set up for quarterly meetings starting in July, and they are on the calendar and are being notified, and the room's reserved, so that is starting to happen regularly and needs to happen
Good,
regularly.
thank you for that.
It'll be the second Monday of the quarter. There's one holiday that gets in there, but there was always a holiday that got in the way, so second Monday of the quarter.
Okay.
All right, entertain a motion to reappoint Miss Melanie Jefferson to the Recreation Commission.
So,
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. Terry. Is there any questions or discussion on that one? Right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved. I know Mr. Hammond is not eligible, or Pastor Hammond, for reappointment to the Social Services Board. I think we're working on getting somebody for that. And I have not talked to Ms. Harless. I know,
You want to just put this back on the agenda for the next meeting?
yeah, I'll reach out to her and see if she's still, I know she's dealing with some health issues with her husband.
I have attempted to make contact with another individual, but have not got a reply back yet, so I will let you know on that.
All right, we'll move on to the Lots Gap Tank Project.
Mr. Chairman, I just had that on the agenda at the last meeting. You all approved entering into the agreement with the, or putting the letter of credit together for the $2.5 million with $2 million from the town and $500,000 for us. I put this on the agenda just in case there was anything that popped up that needed to be discussed. Everything has gone through okay. The town signed off on the paperwork on their side. I signed off on the paperwork on ours, so no action is needed tonight on that. So thank you.
All right, anything else for new business, Mr. Barry?
No, Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything else.
Mr. Hankins, you have anything?
No, sir.
Right, we'll move on to board reports, Buildings and Grounds Committee, Mr. Burnett.
The Building and Grounds Committee met on June 4th, 2024, at 3 p.m. and has several action items. The first item is adopting prorated season pass pricing for the Rural Retreat Lake Pool as follows. Pass sold between June 13th, 23rd, which is 58 days, is $130. June 27th to July 7th, 50 days is $110, and July 8th to the 14th is 39 days, which is $90. And as far as I know, remember, this was per person, correct, Mr. Bear?
Correct.
Yep. All right, comes from committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or discussion on that recommendation? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
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 So approved.
Second item is authorizing the county administrator to sign and enter into an agreement for the Gator Lane project administration.
Again, coming from the committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or discussion on that one?
Yeah, I'm sorry, when you dropped your pen, I didn't hear. What was it? Can you read that one again?
Authorizing the county administrator to sign and enter into the agreement for the Gator Lane project administration.
Okay. Get it.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to comment on that. But we have got, VDOT has some funds available for putting in a rail crossing guard at the intersection of Gator Lane and Kent's Lane. There are no local funds, but it does require us to locally administer the project, and Mr. Kinser has gone through more training than I can explain for him to get certified to do this. So would request that you all allow us to enter into this agreement for Mr. Kinser to be our local project administrator.
All right, does that lead to any questions or discussion?
I just thank you for the clarification on that.
Yeah.
All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 So approved.
The third item is adopting the operating agreement with the Fort Chiswell Library.
Again, it comes from committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or discussion on that recommendation? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Aye. So approved.
And the fourth item is authorizing tree removal at the Apex adjoining property site.
Again, come from committee, it doesn't need a second. Any questions or discussion on that recommendation?
Yeah, I'd like to know what that.
There is a company that has a sign on the adjoining owner on the far eastern end of the county's property. It sits way up on top of the hill, actually sits back off of Envision Drive, I think is what it is. About 5 years ago or so, they came in and removed all the brush in front of that sign just to make sure it didn't get up blocking view from the interstate. In the process of them doing so, I asked them to also clear along between Chapman Road and the county's property down there to cut all of those tree of heaven and brush trees and autumn olives that grow down through there. They have come back and requested again this year to cut the trees up in front of the sign, and I've said I would recommend to my board that we approve you doing that if you'll come down and cut alongside the interstate again as well. I think it just makes our property look better, especially as we're trying to market that property. So they have agreed that they would cut the trees down along the Chapman Road. This is on our property, not on the Apex property that we have leased to them, but this is on our property, basically from the stormwater ponds running back towards Fort Chisholm.
No cost to us.
No cost to us.
All right, does anybody else have any questions or discussion? All right, here now we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Aye. So approved. And I apologize, Mr. Smith and Mr. Cook, I didn't scroll down. I thought we had a synopsis of those recommendations.
Yeah, my apologies. I don't.
I just scrolled down, there was like nothing, so you.
The committee, I provided pictures showing the area they were cutting, and I apologize that they are not in the package.
And that was everything from the Building and Grounds Committee.
All right, thank you, Mr. Byrd. Move on to the Budget Committee.
The Budget Committee met on June 4, 2024, and recommends approving of the following budget items as presented.
All right, we have 4 recommendations, and I'm scrolling down here. All right, come from committee doesn't need a second. Is there any questions or discussion amongst or about the 4 recommendations that come from the Budget Committee? Right, here and now we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burnett?
Aye.
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 So approved.
No further items, Mr. Chairman.
Move on to board member time. Mr. Terry, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing at this time, sir.
Right, Mr. Morgan,
I have nothing at this time, thank you.
Mr. Smith,
Nothing at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cook,
I have nothing.
birthday Cook.
I have nothing at this time.
Mr. Burnett,
I have a couple of items, Chairman. I've had some citizens reach out about mowing with shoulders, in just the general area, and when VDOT's gonna start doing that. There's also a guardrail on the intersection of Route 52 and Castleton Road that's gotten deemed up. And that's all I have.
all right. I said everything I need to say earlier, so. Mr. Barry, you have anything to come before the board? You thought too long, Mr. Hankins? You're definitely getting cut off because you cost us money when you think.
This one's, the money's already spent, Mr. Chairman. The Ager Park, the toddler, younger play area is under construction now. The buildings and ground supervisor and I worked with some of the rec department staff and some of the buildings and ground staff to unload all the equipment yesterday before the contractor got there, and so they are at work. They started yesterday afternoon, and they've budgeted up to 3 weeks for it to happen. We don't think it's going to take more than 2 weeks, but if you remember when they got to work last year, it rained pretty heavily for the first few days they were out there to work, and so we had to wait for it to drain so they could finish the playground. So if the weather cooperates, we should be done a little sooner, and we'll schedule a ribbon cutting or other formal event to recognize you all and the funding agencies that have participated as well.
All right, is that all, Mr. Hankins?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Farthing, you have anything?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Collins? Got any more family members going to come up here and get them? Okay.
Maybe next year.
And I will go back to supervisor's time. One thing Mr. Hankins said, I did have run into a friend of mine who complimented the county on how clean Retreat Lake has been, and I started to credit to the trash cans, which we had that talk, but honestly, the crew we've got out there have went above and beyond, and they really do a good job. So pass our appreciation along to them. And with that being said, with nothing else to come before the board, we'll be adjourned.